Mark Morgan joins the Warriors today. We are going to have a realistic and honest and open discussion. Get ready because we are going to tell you exactly what's happening at the border. I don't even know where we begin with you, Mark. First of all, I want to thank you for joining me today, taking the time during the holiday season, and also for your decades, your years of service to our country in protecting all of us and continuing to work in this most difficult arena. I just want to throw that in because God bless you and everybody you work with. You are part of a distinguished group that I promote and raise awareness about all the time, educating the public about what's going on at the border, border911.com. Colleagues, Tom Homan, Jason Jones, Derek Maltz. I have spoken, Mark, to all of them, and each one said to me, get Mark Morgan, speak to Mark Morgan. He's the best. So here you are. So I can't thank you enough. It's truly an honor. The most powerful nation, this is what Border 911 says. The most powerful nation in the world no longer has operational control of our borders. The most secure border we ever had was systematically dismantled by the Biden administration. The historic illegal alien crisis is no longer about just illegal immigration. It's about public safety, public health, and sex trafficking of women and children at record numbers. And that is the mission statement. Mark, we work on sex trafficking, human trafficking, children, and all people. So first, welcome, sir, to the Warriors.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate that. Yeah, I feel very blessed to be part of Border 911 that you talked about. Again, it's being led by another great patriot, great man and colleague, Tom Homan, along with, you said, Jason Jones, Derek Maltz, the great Sarah Carter as well. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're trying to push forth a grassroots effort to bring awareness and attention to the disastrous chaos and lawlessness that's happening on our borders. Because, look, I travel all over this country. And Lynn, as you know, living in New York, there's a lot of people that just fundamentally have a misunderstanding of exactly what's going on. So I applaud you and your efforts as well, because this is so important. Because a lot of people right now, they look at what's happening at the border, and there's this big false narrative out there, one of many, that what's happening at the border is about immigration. And that's one of the things that gets me frustrated the most, because that's not true. What's happening at our borders right now, again, the chaos and lawlessness, it's about border security, which is synonymous with national security. And to a large degree, our ability to secure our borders is being driven by illegal immigration. That's different. Illegal immigration is not the same as immigration. Those are two separate things. And we have to separate those with respect to actually what's going on at the border, to have an honest intellectual discussion. And I get frustrated. Real quick, this is what I do sometimes. I'll ask people, I'll say, okay, so your drugs coming across the border, we need to stop that, right? Everybody always says yes. And I said, criminals, murderers, rapists, pedophiles, gang members, we should stop that as well, right? Oh, of course, Mark. And then I say, what about national security threats, terrorists? By now, they're like rolling their eyes and they're saying, of course, Mark, we should stop all that stuff from coming across our border. And then I ask them, what about illegal immigration? And that's when they start to shift, as if there's no downside to illegal immigration. Like illegal immigration is a victimless crime. Lynn, it's not. And illegal immigration pulls our limited law enforcement and national security resources off the front line. We literally hand operational control to the cartels because we're in facilities processing millions of illegal aliens. They exploit that, and that's how they get the drugs, criminals, and national security threats across our border.
Mark, I have so many questions for you. First, I do want to share with our listeners, our viewers, just a little bit about you. It is so extensive, your career. I mean, it warrants all kinds of medals. I'd be giving you medals, and Jason Jones and Tom, if I could be in that capacity. I'm just a warrior spreading awareness, but I do want to share a little bit about you. In 2019, Mark was appointed by the President of the United States to serve as the acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and subsequently to serve as acting commissioner of the Customs and Borders Protection, that is CBP. While at CBP, the largest law enforcement organization in the U.S., Mark oversaw a workforce of in excess of 64,000 or 63,000 plus employees, managed an annual budget of billions, over 13 billion, and ensured the effective operations of CBP's mission to combat transnational criminal organizations, secure our nation's borders, again in a vast complex sets of threats, and also promoting lawful trade and travel, driving continued economic prosperity, And also, I can't keep up with you, Mark. In 2016, after completing, there's so much here. After completing a distinguished law enforcement career at the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, everybody, he was appointed to the position of this chief U.S. Border Patrol in Washington, D.C. And it goes on and on. I'm going to urge everybody, border911.com. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, and I think thanks for that. And I think a lot of people listening say, it's probably saying, "Heck, you can't keep a job." So the important thing here, right? The important thing here with the resume is not all my titles and everything. This is what I truly think is the big takeaway: is that I've served this country for over 40 years. I served under 7 different administrations, both Republican and Democrat. I'm a career guy. This isn't about politics. This isn't about red or blue for me. This is about red, white, and blue. And I think it's important. When I served as chief of the United States Border Patrol, that was under the Obama administration. I was commissioner of the Trump administration and a whole bunch of administrations in between. So I think I think that's important to take away. So when I talk, I'm just trying to tell the truth about what's happening. This is not about politics for me, but unfortunately, what's happening on our border has been infused with politics. Instead of doing the right thing for our country to put America first and secure our border to protect our nation's safety and national security, the policies are being driven by ideology and politics. That's why we're in the mess that we're in right now.
Thank you, Mark, for saying all of that. You stole my first question. I don't have to ask now. I was going to say to you, you've been in different administrations, but you know what? I want people to understand that. That is so important that they understand exactly what you just said.
Yep.
Okay, now before I get into the tough questions for you, I like to start with, give us a little bit about Mark Morgan. Who are you? Tell us some things we may not know about you. What your passion is. Anything you want to share with us?
Sure. Look, I'm a Missouri boy. I grew up in Missouri. 2 wonderful parents. Had a brother. Unfortunately, I lost my father and my brother way too young. My mother just recently died a couple of years ago of Alzheimer's. But I tell you, they instilled in me a set of values and a set of integrity that I really have taken with me in all areas of my life. I haven't been a perfect human being, but my parents, all the success that I have achieved over my lifetime, I really equate it back to how I was raised and the foundation they gave me as an early man. Young man, I should say. I don't think I was ready for continued education after high school, so I enlisted in the Marine Corps. And I tell you, Liz, that's another. If I had to do it all over again, I'd do it the same thing. My time in the United States Marine Corps is a time that I'm really honored that I had the opportunity to serve. I later became commissioned. I left active duty. I ended up getting my undergraduate degree in engineering, and that's another little thing. So I love to work with my hands, and the degree in construction engineering, it's something that I still carry with me today. One of the hobbies I love to do is home improvement projects. And I always say, I think when I retire one day, I may just open up my own little, just not necessarily a full-time thing, but actually flipping houses and remodeling houses. I think when I move away from this madness that we're in right now. But then later, I got a law degree, and then I shifted. Even after law school, I completed the bar. I actually went and I was a police officer for the Los Angeles Police Department. So that was a kind of the weird thing. After law school, I actually became a police officer in the streets of Los Angeles. Another great experience. And then I went on the FBI, and for 20 years, lived in multiple places throughout the United States. And then you just enumerated the rest of what I did. And I got to tell you, I think at the end of the day, I'm in this fight because I also consider myself a strong patriot, someone that feels honored and blessed to be, I think, in what is the greatest country on the face of the planet. And I hold dear the values that this country has, as well as those enumerated in the Constitution. And I feel that all of that is being obliterated right now because of this administration, especially when it comes to the border. So I'm in the fight. That's why Tom and Sarah and Jason and Derek and others and Border 911, that's why we're in the fight. We've got 11 months to turn this around and make sure American people understand what's going on and how important it is and why it matters.
First, Mark, I want to say you're an overachiever, but I like that. Look, my whole background is I started in the music business years ago. Like my whole background is producing, entertainment, all that stuff. I am so passionate. what I say about myself, just so you understand, is, we love our country. I love my country. I'm an American. I don't like my government right now, but I feel this overwhelming duty when people are like, why are you doing this, Lynn? Because I could work in entertainment or something. It is because I have to do it. I say I feel like a nun with a calling. I have to educate the masses who can't handle things you're experiencing, you're talking about. I feel like I have to really share information, and I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I have you today, Jason, Tom, Sarah, I've got lined up in a couple of weeks to talk about this because, I'm convinced, Mark, unless it's right in front of an American, a person, I know everybody's overwhelmed. It's like getting hit with a hammer every day with everything happening, over your head, getting hit. Unless it's right in front of you, everybody's blocking everything out. That's what I think.
Lynn, I couldn't have said it better myself. I completely agree. And first of all, if I can, thank you for what you do. You're serving your country as equally as I did, just in a different capacity. And I think that's I think right now you're actually doing the most important thing, providing a platform so that folks like us that actually know that the technical aspects of what's going on can help educate. So thank you for what you do. But the other part of that is you're spot on. I call it connecting the dots. Just human nature. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's just reality that if you don't perceive that your inner circle is impacted by something, you don't pay attention to it. I mean, every day we get up, we fill our gas, our tank with gas, we go grocery shopping, we go out to eat, etc. Mortgages and rent. We see that and experience that every day. And that's why, James Carville a long time ago said it's the economy, stupid, because we feel that and impact it every day. Unfortunately, what's happening, the chaos and lawlessness at our border, people don't necessarily perceive that their inner circle is being impacted, but it is. They just don't know it. I'll give you a quintessential example. It was about a year and a half ago when some West Point cadets went down to Florida and they took some drugs. Look, they're the 1% of the youth in this country. They made one little mistake. Believe me, I'm not condoning the use of cocaine, but they made one mistake, but they shouldn't have died, but they did. And why? Because unknowns to them, the cocaine was laced with fentanyl. That's happening every single day. I mean, there are 9,000 Americans plus that are dying every 30 days because of fentanyl poisoning. The leading cause of death in this country of 18 to 45-year-old is fentanyl. And we know the fentanyl, over 95% of it comes from the wide open southwest border. Wake up, America. It's impacting you. It's impacting every town, city, and state in this country. And that's just one example of many.
That is actually what I try to preach, and I actually call it preaching, Mark. That every community, town, city, rural area in America is affected right now by the border. What is going on with the criminal open borders? This is a national security threat. First of all, lay out for somebody listening the landscape right now. I have so many things to ask you, but I digress for a second just to throw in. Mayor Eric Adams. I'm here in New York City. Come, we're a sanctuary city. Food, clothing, housing, everybody come. So they're all coming, okay? And now everybody's complaining. It goes back to when it's in your face, then everybody starts to complain. And I say, because I'm seeing it here and I talk to a lot of people, Mark, a lot of these people now are moving into other areas. They don't like the cold New York City. So they're heading now to Florida. I am telling everybody you might not see it right now. It is heading your way, all of this. But lay out, if you could summarize what is going on, because every day I'm looking at videos, I'm seeing a trainload of people coming, people stepping through walls and fences. I see no stop in sight. So lay it out for us. What is going on today?
It's funny because, what's causing it and how we could fix it is actually relatively simple, but the results are not. The results of a wide open border are vast and complex. Take New York, for example. It's incredulous to me, the hypocrisy at all new levels from Eric Adams. You said he ran on sanctuary cities, supported sanctuary cities, and while he's shocked when they come, and then he tries to blame Governor Abbott for facilitating illegal aliens who were incentivized and allowed to come by the Biden administration, who once they're in the country released, want to come to New York. And the governor's just saying, okay, New York, you want them? I'm just going to help. And he blames Governor Abbott. And now what I'm hearing, a lot of people are getting this all wrong with Mayor Adams. They're like, oh, well, now he's pushing back on the administration. No, he's not. Here's the key. He's saying right now that this is unsustainable for New York. He's saying that it's going to, quote, destroy New York. And so, see, everybody said, "Oh, look, Eric Adams, he's really saying that this has got to stop." No, he's not, Lynn. The only thing that he's asking, he's still blaming Republicans. He's still blaming people like Governor Abbott. The only thing that he's not asking this administration to stop the crisis, to reverse policies. He's just asking for more money from this administration.
Yes.
Rather than secure our border and stop the threat and chaos from entering our country, he's just asking for more U.S. taxpayer dollars to fund it after the crisis and threats have already been here, number one. Number two, here's how it's playing right now. And this is what gets me so frustrated. Under President Trump, just the facts, right? This isn't politics. I was there as commissioner. He gave us a network of tools, authorities, and policies we had to actually achieve the most secure border in our lifetime. In this administration on day one, they talk about that they inherited a dismantled system. It's a complete lie. They dismantled it. When they say that, they can't give you an example, but I can. The safe third countries with agreements with all three Northern Triangle countries, they got rid of. The Remain in Mexico program, they got rid of. Title 42, they got rid of. Resources like building the wall, they stopped. Interior enforcement, so ICE could actually apprehend, deport criminal aliens in this country, they restricted. And I could go on and on. So that's where it began. It began with a complete dismantlement of the network of tools and authorities we had in place. So he sent a message to the entire world, now's the time to come. In the last 36 months, we've had over 8 million total nationwide encounters, well over 2 million known and unknown gotaways. So in 36 months, we've had over 10 million aliens come to our borders. Lynn, there's no country on the face of the planet that can sustain that. And think about this. And so when you have millions and millions come to the border, it's easy what happens. The results is that Border Patrol agents are pulled off their law enforcement away from the national security mission. They're in facilities relegated to administrative duties to process millions and millions of illegal aliens that have come, literally leaving the borders unpatrolled, unmanned, and wide open. The cartels step up. They fill that void. We've literally handed operational control to them. It's easy now. That's how they push criminals, drugs, and national security threats across our border every single day. Again, we've apprehended more national security threats than ever before in our history. In the past 36 months, we've apprehended over 285 aliens on the FBI's terror screening database. We've apprehended tens of thousands of what we call special interest aliens that come from countries that we know harbor, facilitate, and sponsor terrorism. Now think about this. That's who we apprehend. I'll go back to the over 2 million gotaways. So think about how many individuals that are on the FBI's terror screening database are special interest aliens that are among the 2 million gotaways. Think about the number of murderers, rapists, pedophiles, aggravated felons, and gang members among the 2 million known gotaways. Liz, I could keep going. I mean, Lynn, I could keep going on and on, but that's what's happening on our borders every single day, all day long.
I think it's the most frightening thing, Mark, that all of this is occurring, and we don't see any stopping. But let me just go back to this Mayor Eric Adams here in my New York City, I'm going to call it. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. And so I'm glad you pointed out, he's not trying to stop, fix any of this. He's just looking for money, money, money. Okay. I have never in my entire lifetime have seen, Mark, what I see on the streets, whether they're on mopeds, motorcycles, bicycles, going every which direction, doing all kinds of things. The city is filthy dirty. And Mayor Eric Adams, what does he do? He defunds our fire department the other day. He's getting rid of 20%. Of course, bless you. The police department also in a shambles, in a wreck. I work with NYPD. They don't even want to touch anybody, apprehend anybody. They're scared. Who could blame them? Right.
Right.
We also just announced, not we, Mayor Eric Adams, we're going to close some libraries, on weekends. And that's where a lot of vulnerable kids have only place they can go and use internet. So they are, in my opinion, really trying to destroy. I can speak about New York a lot, these major cities across America. In your opinion, Mark, I call this a war going on. Everybody's like, oh, we have a war in Ukraine. We have a war now, Israel and Gaza and all. I'm like, there's a war right here in America. Would you agree with that assessment?
Absolutely. Lynn, beautifully said. I agree 100%. And here's who we're at war against: the cartels. The cartels are one of the most, and Jason Jones is a formidable expert on this. In FBI, I worked him as well. The cartels are one of the most sophisticated, powerful, influential criminal organizations on the face of the planet. People don't understand that. People still think when they think about Mexican cartels, it's a small group that just operates in Mexico. That hasn't been the case for decades. I mean, think about it. Right now, they're coordinated working with criminal organizations in China to get precursor chemicals from China to Mexico to make synthetic drugs laced with fentanyl, push it across the border to kill Americans. The cartels are all over the world. They're not just in Mexico. They're not just even in the Western Hemisphere. Cartels have their tentacles in every state in this country. They're associated drug and human smuggling organizations that are connected with the cartels go back and forth across our borders at will. They coordinate in Canada. I could go on and on, Liz. We are absolutely at a war, and the cartels operate in a country that is completely corrupt. In many areas, it's a complete failed narco state. The Mexican government, not only are they corrupt, not only do they not have the political will to push back and defeat the cartels, but now, Lynn, we're in a position now where they don't have the capacity to defeat the cartels. So there is unequivocally no doubt in my mind we're at war, and we're at war with the Mexican cartels. We should be. And that's why you've seen a lot of calls for naming them terrorist organizations. Jason's going to be a real proponent of that. Look, this is where I fall on that. Look, there's pros and cons, whether we label them a terrorist organization or not. We could have that debate. But here's what's important about that debate and the calls is that what we should be doing is completely deconstructing how we've gone after the cartels. Again, I spent 20 years in the FBI. We have used for 2-3 decades the traditional criminal prosecutorial method and approach to go after the cartels. We've failed for 3 decades. The only thing that's happened in that time is they've gotten more powerful, more influential. So we need to change the paradigm of how we go after them. I subscribe to the Bill Barr, Attorney General Bill Barr's method of going after them with a whole of government approach and the same level and tenacity that we do terrorist organizations. And that includes precision surgical military operations to go out and to go to the heart to defeat the cartels. At the end of the day, the greatest thing would be if we do it in coordination with Mexico like we did in Colombia. But last time I checked, we don't need another nation to protect our own borders. Lynn, the reality is every single day, drugs are pouring across, killing Americans. We have criminals that are pouring across America, raising havoc with our nation's safety. And every single day, potential national security threats are coming across our border. People ask me all the time, Mark, hey, do you think it's possible, that a terrorist organization is going to come across across our border? And I say, no. And they look at me kind of funny. And I say, because it's already here.
You can answer, Mark, any way you want. But I call our U.S. government right now so complicit, working hand in hand with the cartels, because there is no accountability that I'm seeing. And it's just escalating. Answer this any way you want. Why do you think this is allowed?
Yeah. So
I mean, I was here on 9/11 in New York City.
Yep.
And I actually wake up, and Mark, I'm not a scared type. I'm tough and all that. I wake up every day and say, I can feel something in the atmosphere. It's like a
Absolutely.
strange feeling. Like, I don't know, but this is something's going to happen. And I'm not a person who thinks like that, but I feel it. Why are they allowing this?
First of all, let me foot stomp on that real quick. So I completely agree. Is right now, I have said in multiple ways, we're more vulnerable in some areas than we were prior to 9/11. After 9/11, we made tremendous progress. We've shifted to a really intelligence-driven, threat-based approach. Obviously, we've locked down the airways. But when you look to our southern border, Lynn, right now under this administration, we're more vulnerable than I think we ever have been. We're receiving people from 180 different countries. There's only 195 recognized countries in the face of the planet. And again, many of them we know sponsor and facilitate terrorism. And so not only are they getting through a part of the 2 million gotaways, but Lynn, even those that we apprehend, we can't properly vet them. Think about this. If we get a single adult male from Lebanon of military age, do you think the Lebanese government is providing this information? Oh, you better not let him in because he's part of Hezbollah.
Right.
That's not happening. But yet we're letting them into our country every single day. In the past 36 months, 24,000 Chinese nationals, the overwhelming majority, like 95%, are single adult males of military age, of which China refuses to take them back. And we've released 99% of them into our country. Yeah, no problem there. And I could keep going on and on. But to answer the crux of your question, and as an American, I didn't want to reach this conclusion, but there can be no other conclusion why an administration would turn their back on their constitutional duty, why any administration would set forth a series of policies and rules that actually would destroy our border security and jeopardize the safety and national security of our country, is because they see a perceived political benefit in two fronts. One is that, think about it, on day one of the things he did was he reinstituted that illegal aliens are counted as part of the census. So there's a real redistricting in the favor of the Democrats. Second, the Democrats believe that every single illegal alien that they find a pathway to citizenship is going to equate to a Democratic vote. That's why in the first month or so, a couple of months of this administration, their so-called immigration, a comprehensive immigration policy that they put out, what did it include? Amnesty. Nothing to secure our border, nothing to stem the flow. But what did it do? It included amnesty. They telegraphed the first month of this administration what this was all about.
Let me ask you something. You know, we had the reports I think it was last spring already, about 85,000, the Biden administration, unaccompanied minors, as they're calling them. That's what we were told. You know, it hit the media for a day or two, and then it goes away because Americans have the attention span of a gnat. I'm still trying to find out where are these kids. We know the numbers are always higher, whatever is reported.
Yep.
What can you report about kids on the border? What can you lay it out for us? Because, you know, there might be a lot of chat here and there, different groups and organizations I work with, colleagues of mine, Mark, but I don't see anybody asking these questions that I'm asking. Like, what happened? Okay, they admitted 85,000. For all we know, it's 170,000 at that time. This is, you know, what, 6-9 months later. What do you know about any of this you can share with us?
Yeah, Lynn, look, I know this is a near and dear topic to you, and it should be for all of us. And this is where I'll go back to one of the things is for Americans, connect the dots. For us to allow what's happening on our border right now means that we're allowing our government to actually be a participant in the world's largest human smuggling and trafficking operation that we've ever seen. Don't believe the lies. This Secretary Marcus, which I believe honestly, there could be criminal charges filed against this guy for his abdication of his duty, and he refuses to enforce the law. He keeps saying that they've developed a safe, orderly, humane system for illegal aliens. First of all, it's an oxymoron. And second of all, it's a blatant lie. The past 36 months, I'd have to check the numbers, but it's well in excess over 350,000 unaccompanied minors. And what I would say is that talk about family separation. The only difference is that 350,000 unaccompanied minors just decided to self-separate from their home because this administration and Secretary Mayorkas said, if you get to our borders, we're going to release you into the country. So 350,000 unaccompanied minors made the trek. Here's what you'll never hear about. This is what gets my blood boiling. We know non-governmental organizations have said, like Doctors Without Borders, and I know you know this, but for everybody watching, 30% of the young women and children are sexually assaulted or raped on their journey up here. 30%. And we've had 350,000 unaccompanied minors. I've talked to Border Patrol agents as well as law enforcement on the border whose lives will never be the same, who have recounted how they actually interviewed a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old, and she recounted how she was raped multiple times on the journey. Or how a 12-year-old, they were searching her backpack and a bag of pills fell out. And they said, what is that? And she said, a 12-year-old, Lynn, that it was a morning after pills that her mother had provided her because she just anticipated she was going to be raped on the journey up here. And we know that in the past 36 months, we've recovered, CBP alone have recovered over 2,000 dead migrants at our border. That doesn't include the dead migrants found by local law enforcement or those that died in Mexico on the journey or the Darien Gap. That number could be in the thousands and thousands. Border Patrol, they have executed thousands and thousands of rescues along the Rio Grande, for example, that had they not risked their own lives, thousands more migrants have died. And then to the heart of the issue, After they're released, after they're in the United States, oftentimes, then they become victims of trafficking. Here, for your listeners, here's how this works. Example, real quick. They say, hey, what's it going to cost for you to smuggle me in the United States illegally? $8,000. Well, I don't have it. I've only got about $4,000. No problem. When you get to the United States, you can work and then pay us back. About 2 weeks after the United States, there's a knock on their hotel door. Where's the other $4,000? I don't have it. No problem. Here's how you're going to pay it off. And the life of sex and labor trafficking begins. And you're right. The congressional testimony, they said they'd lost track of the 85,000 to 350,000. It's well over 100,000 now. But here's where we do know where there are. There's articles where a 10-year-old was working a midnight shift in a meatpacking plant cleaning entrails. So we know what's happening. This administration is intentionally and knowingly allowing the cartels to abuse and exploit and make a lot of money on the backs of migrants who then, once they're in the United States, then become a victim of trafficking. That's happening every day, all day long. And this administration lies to American people and pretends it doesn't happen.
It's so incredible, Mark. I also want to get at that. I'm hearing, see if you can shed some light on this. The cartels are now operating in the American public school system. They're recruiting American children to distribute their drugs, and they're also recruiting American kids to traffic, their peers, other students. And I'm hearing that's in all 50 states. Again, what can you share with us about that? Because I try, Mark, so hard to get everybody to wake up. Something, if that doesn't wake you up, and we're talking about middle schools, 7th, 8th, 9th, and then the high schools.
Yep.
To this, people always say to me, Mark, no, that doesn't happen.
Right.
I don't know about you. Why is everybody in denial? So can you shed some light if you're hearing anything about that? Because, a kid will, $500 for, I don't know, a 15-year-old's a lot of money, right? We know about the smuggling. They're driving people and crashing sometimes, or just making money, and they're recruiting online blatantly right in front of us on different platforms like Snapchat, TikTok. What do you know about all of this?
So two things, and you said something that's very important. It goes back to what we were talking about, is connecting the dots. I think a lot of Americans, they don't want to admit it's happened because, one, it doesn't fit into their narrative, and two, it's really, really disgusting, right? People just don't want it. They don't want to think about it. They want to get up. Maybe they're working 2 jobs trying to, feed their family and pay the mortgage. And I get that, but we need to wake up, because talk about antithetical to our Constitution, our values, is this administration often opines about how they are the caring ones for the illegal aliens. And it's the opposite. I mean, our nation's safety and national security is being jeopardized, and we're suffering, but the migrants are suffering. It's a big lie. And again, I'll go back to the cartels are one of the most sophisticated criminal organizations on the face of the planet. So yes, they're doing everything possible that will increase their profit. We know that they're on social media. We know that they're coordinating with individuals in the United States, as you said, to help smuggle their drugs as well as human beings. I'll give you an example. They are intentionally using, whether it's TikTok, Snapchat, whatever the new thing is, they're using it to actually recruit minors in the U.S. minors to act as their drug mules and their human smuggling mules right on the border. Why? Because they know the cartels know this, because the American justice system is lenient on juveniles. They know they don't prosecute them. They know they rarely see any jail time for a crime like drug smuggling or human smuggling, and they know it. And so that's how sophisticated they are. So for somebody to just denounce that the smugglers and the cartels that are not using sophisticated techniques and operations to expand their criminal operations, they're just ignorant and they're being naive.
Mark, I also heard from a source that the cartels are also bringing in lots of weapons into America and storing them, burying them, doing something with them. What's your take on that? What do you know about that?
So my information, it really is about the opposite, right? It's about drugs going from the United States to Mexico. Because in some areas for them, weapons coming to Mexico is better than money. I mean, that's how they facilitate what really now the cartels, they really are a quasi-military operation. If I really encourage people that are watching this, just take 5 minutes and go on the internet, Google it, search it. You'll see pictures of the Mexican cartels that rival many countries' military. And in fact, a lot of the cartel members in Mexico actually came from the Mexican military, but their jobs are easier and they pay more. The cartels do. It's unbelievable. There's this picture that I show a lot of times when I speak of just a series of armored vehicle and brand new F-150 trucks outfitted with weapons and stuff. And the trucks that they have are newer than the truck that I drive. Again, it goes to the sophistication of the cartels, and they're working. They're in the United States. They're all over. They're in every state in this country, and they're working with straw purchasers and other individuals here in the United States to actually get a hold of weapons and bring them across the border to Mexico. And it's not just small arms. This is a fact. ATF have been involved in case, FBI as well, where large caliber, 50 caliber machine guns have gone south into Mexico to help arm them, to help them carry out their criminal operations.
Wow. I want to ask you, we always talk about a lot. We talk about Texas and Arizona with the border. I do a lot of work also in the San Diego area, different immigration attorneys, law enforcement. I think people also don't understand the borders are all over. Would you agree to that? I mean, whether it's our oceans, what are some of the
Yes.
points of entry that where this is happening right now, or is it all over?
Yeah, Lynn, that's another great question. I love talking to you because and I understand we tend to put a lot of our focus on only the southwest border. And obviously that's where the majority of the threat is coming across with respect to illegal aliens, and really has rendered the southwest border just wide open. Again, there's 9 border patrol sectors, for example, along the southwest border, and most of them, 70 to 85% of agents, they're not on the front line. They're in facilities carrying out administrative duties, processing and releasing illegal aliens. That's why I mean illegal immigration. It does have a downstream effect. It does cause our borders to be wide open. And so there's nobody on the front lines. And that's along all 2,000 miles. I mean, there was one day this week in a 24-hour period, the southwest border encountered 12,000
Right.
12,000 aliens, and that's really along the entire southwest border. But that's not the only threat. Our coastal ways, Florida, San Diego, as you mentioned. Look, San Diego has some pretty good fortification that sometimes in some areas they have not just a primary, but secondary and tertiary level of infrastructure in San Diego, especially in really dense populated urban areas. And so what do the cartels do? They just take to the ocean and they go up the coast. It's extremely dangerous to smuggle humans and drugs. And then let's go to our northern border. A lot of people don't understand. The southwest border that we share with Mexico is only about 2,000 miles. The northern border we share with Mexico is 5,000 miles. I believe it's the largest shared land border in the planet, 5,000 miles. And the northern border, they have fewer resources than the southern border. In fact, a lot of the northern border patrol agents, for example, are being deployed to the southern border to help there. And if not, then they're utilizing them on the northern border virtually to help the southern border. Our northern border is vulnerable too. And a lot of people think it's Canada and they just dismiss it. But
Right.
in Canada, we actually have a significant national security threat. And what a lot of people don't realize, even though we've seen an unprecedented number of illegal aliens on the terror screening database apprehended illegally in the southern border, guess what? On the northern border, at our ports of entry, in the past 36 months, they've had close to 1,000 encounters of aliens on the FBI's terror screening database on the northern border. So to answer your question, yes, our borders are vulnerable throughout northern border, southern border, and coastal areas.
Mark, I do a lot of work in Washington, also policy, which is bipartisan for all these issues we talk about, right?
Yep.
The
Yep.
trafficking, sexual exploitation, all of this. Both sides, to me, are just the same because they're not responding. We have 6 child safety bills right now at the internet going to the final vote. Can't get them to the floor actually for that final vote. They've worked their way all the way up the chain. How does Congress at all, or just Mayorkas? We see those sound bites or whatever we see him do every once in a while. How is there any interaction about this, or they're just totally ignoring everything, not answering anybody, not agreeing, no anything?
Congress is dysfunctional across
Yeah.
the board, both Republicans and Democrats.
Yes.
On the cabinet side, Secretary Mayorkas, And I'm not going to pull any punches. He's the most dangerous man in this administration. He's a liar. Everything that he says to Congress and American people about the Southwest border is a lie. And on the solution front, on trafficking, look, one thing we learned after 9/11 is we had to move away from being a reactive law enforcement mindset to being a proactive preventative mindset. We don't want to get good at reacting to another terrorist attack. We want to be the best at preventing it. And that's the same goes with any other crime, is including drugs coming across the border and human beings being trafficked, right? So we don't want to react to it. So every time I hear, oh, we're going to get really tough on prosecuting traffickers, that's just stupid, Len. That's a joke. We don't want to get better at prosecuting. We want to get better at preventing it. And you know, one of the best ways to prevent young children and women from being just viciously trafficked, a tragedy that they will never be able to recover from? Close our darn borders, right?
Yes.
Stop it. De-incentivize. Stop them from coming. Stop unaccompanied minors from risking their life to come here and put their lives in the hands of the dangerous cartels, who then we know once they get across here are being thrust into the life of trafficking. You want to stop trafficking? You want to be sincere? You want to stop lying to the American people? Secure our border and stop it. Right now, I know you know this, but the average age of those trafficked right now in this country is about 15 years old. You guess what the average age of unaccompanied minors coming? 14 to 16 years old. I mean, just do the math. You don't have to be a rocket scientist, right? So I get so frustrated. Right now, Congress, they're dysfunctional. Tell me, they're right now, there's legislation going across, and they're trying with the budget right now. So they're trying to figure out what to do with the border. This is unbelievable. So this is what I say. The Democrats have caused the problem, but the Republicans refuse to fix it, right? So they're both equally to blame at this point. I want to know, what's the compromise to securing our border? Lynn, where have we become? Why are we talking about a compromise to secure our border, to stop drugs, criminals, and national security threats from pouring into our country? I don't understand why we're talking about a compromise. And right now, H.R. 2, it's the strongest piece of border security legislation that's ever been passed by a single chamber in the United States Congress. And a few months ago, it was passed by the House and went over to the Senate. All but one Republican voted for it. Of course, it got voted down because the Democrats own the Senate. And so now we have the opportunity. So the House is saying H.R. 2. All conservative think tanks are saying H.R. 2. That's the answer. That's what we need to secure our border. And what do we have on the Senate Republican side right now? All we're getting back, they're negotiating with each other to actually put forth a watered down version of H.R. 2. And again, why are we watering that down, Lynn? Right. Why are we compromising on a strategy that's strong? Look, I don't even think HR 2 goes far enough, but it's the strongest we've ever had. And it will make a effective policy to stop the flow and regain back operational control from the cartels on our border. And we have politicians right now on Capitol Hill that are trying to water that down.
And I might just throw in, Mark, I think a lot of these people in Congress today want to just, have their time on Fox News or CNN, and it's about them, because again, I work with a lot of them and it's horrible. We're going to do something. They're not doing anything. And if you can't explain it to me, and I'm questioning this every single day, why we have all of this, just close the borders. What do you think is the solution to all of this? Obviously, close the borders, change in administration. What would you do if I made you right now, Mark Morgan, a border czar, right, and you have 24 hours to change everything up? What would you do?
First of all, I'd call out every single congressional member that's talking about a compromise and refuses to pass meaningful legislation to secure our border, to go after the cartels and stop drugs, criminals, national security threats from pouring in. That's number one. Number two, I would completely redesign and refocus how we go after the cartels. I would move from a reactive law enforcement model to a proactive, preventative model and go after the cartels equally in the same way that we go after terrorist organizations. The third thing that I would do is I would pull off the Trump era playbook, dust it off, open it up, and implement of the vast network of tools, authorities, and policies we had in place, like the asylum and cooperative agreements, the safe third countries with all three Northern Triangle countries, the Remain in Mexico program. And I would give ICE back their ability to actually do their job to remove criminals in this country. And I'd sure as heck start building that wall as well. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's what I do on day one.
Excellent. Let's start finishing up. Mark, what do you want the public to know? Give one thing that you think might, I'm always trying to wake everybody up with one fact. to, because again, they can't handle too much of everything.
Right.
And also, how can the public help you? Because I'm a great believer in being a warrior is we have to start in our homes and our communities to step up. I think we live in a new country. Everybody has a duty somehow, some way to do something. It's just
Right.
the new way. This is what I think. And so I want everybody to do something. What would you suggest?
First, I would say, here's why it matters, right? Here's why border security matters. Here's why what's happening on our southern border impacts every state in this country. Every state is a border state. Here's why it is connected to your inner circle. That's what they have to realize. They have to connect the dots. They have to understand that what's happening on our border is not about immigration. It's not. It's about illegal immigration. Here's a quick analogy, real quick. So if two people, you and I, Lynn, we went to the grocery store and you filled your basket up with the groceries, you went to the checkout line, you paid for it, and you left. I went in, I filled up my basket with groceries, and I ran out without paying. We both didn't go grocery shopping, right? You went grocery shopping. I committed a crime that's got multiple downstream effects. That's the same thing. If you come up to a lawful port of entry and you do it the legal way, that's called immigration. You apply for a visa. There's a whole list. But when you illegally enter, that's not immigration. That's a crime. And that's a crime that has a tremendous amount of downstream effects. So please understand the difference. Illegal immigration is not a victimless crime. It pulls resources off the front line. We hand operational control over to the cartels for them to exploit. And they use the illegal immigrants themselves as a distraction, as a shield to push criminals, drugs, and national security threats across our border that go into every single town, city, and state, including your town right now as you're listening. And as far as what to do, one, get educated. Listen to shows like this. Understand that our nation's safety and national security is absolutely being eroded every single day because of the chaos and lawlessness that's happening on our border. Not to mention that it's cost taxpayers $500 billion, and that's adding up every single day. And so what I would say, get educated, make yourself aware, and get involved. Call your local politicians. Call out to your national politicians and say enough is enough. Secure our borders and protect our nation.
And also support border911.com,
Yeah,
donate funds.
Yep.
You forgot that. That's the important thing. But people, Mark, they don't realize the I go into explanations, the burden on our healthcare system, which has been a mess my entire life anyway. The burden on our education system, on our law enforcement. It affects, as you pointed out, every single part of our lives.
Yeah, that's a great. So, Lynn, that's such a great point. I forget. So we talked about getting connected. Think about it. A lot of your taxes go to school. I'm telling you right now, the schools are just jam-packed. The size of classrooms are increasing. There's a lot of individuals in there that do not speak English at all. They can't even write their own language. Teachers' attention, additional resources are being taken away from other students in the classroom. We have American citizens that have been denied entry to hospitals because they're overfilled with illegal aliens. We could go on and on and on again, $500 billion. So not only the aspect of drugs and criminals and national security threats, but it's also a real financial burden on every taxpayer in this country. People need to wake up, Lynn.
I want to let you go because I'm over time for you. I so appreciate all your time, Mark. But I got to ask you because this is another question I always ask. I got to go back a little bit before I let you go. What about all these NGOs that I hear are, processing? I've had different people trying to take pictures. They weren't allowed. I'm hearing, I call them illegal aliens. I don't say migrants because they're here illegally, committing crime, as you pointed out, are getting Visa cards with $5,000. And where do you want to go? What state do you want to go? Here's a plane ticket. Here's, is this all true? And is it just a money-making scheme now on the border? Because I think of everything. People always say, why is this all happening? And I know it's a simple answer, but I'm always like, lots of money is being made, lots of money all over the place. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's all of the above. What I say, these charities, this is where I say that They use our compassion, one of the greatest things in our nation. They've hijacked our compassion. Again, they want to push forth this, that, hey, illegal immigration has no downstream effect. I've talked about that. It does. It's eroding our safety and national security. And so what happens is Border Patrol apprehends the illegal aliens. They process them quickly and they release them into the streets in the border. And then they go to these NGOs who are running these shelters, and they give them everything like you described, including, hey, look, I'm an illegal alien from Lebanon. I've convinced people I'm not part of Hezbollah. I get released, even though they have no idea how to vet me. And I go to one of these shelters and I say, hey, I want to go to Nebraska. I want to go to Montana or New York. No problem. Here's your plane ticket, free to them. And they're on to one of these cities, never be heard from again. Meanwhile, the NGOs are being subsidized, not by just massive donations, but also the federal government. DHS diverts hundreds of millions of dollars from their natural disaster relief fund that's supposed to go to respond to natural disasters here in this country. And they're facilitating the NGOs. And make no mistake, it is a big business for these NGOs. Yes. As you said, they are making a lot of money.
Very disappointing. I like to educate people about that fact too. Think before you give money where your money's actually going. Do some research. Incredible, because Mark, if I go to the corner CVS here, I got to show my license to buy a box of Sudafed if I want to buy Sudafed and be vetted. I made a return the other day at a little store here, and they needed my license to make the return. Yet people are entering our schools, because I talk to a lot of teachers across the country, no IDs, no anything, just nothing.
Lynn, they have nothing. I think I know we're over time. Real quick, so you'll come in illegally. The cartels actually tell them to drop whatever IDs they have on the Mexican side on purpose, because they know it'll be impossible to identify them. They come across, they fingerprint them, and they ask them their name, and they actually say, hey, before you give us a name, make sure you like it, because it's going to be associated with these fingerprints, meaning they just lie. They give false names all the time. We have no idea how to verify that. So they get a piece of paper. That's it. They get a piece of paper with biographical information that the illegal alien gave them, that a majority of the time they can't even verify or prove, and they're released into the country, and that's it. They can use that piece of paper to get on a plane and fly anywhere in the United States, while you and I, that doesn't happen. This is where we're at right now.
I resent it. I know you do too, Mark. I'm all with a big heart for everybody, but not about this. This is criminal. I resent, my 3 adult children, work very hard, pay a lot of taxes, and this is the way Americans are being treated. But I do know, Mark, with your, work and dedication and commitment, I feel better. I'm going to sleep better tonight. And also the great group, Border 911. It's fantastic. I urge everybody, please learn more, join, research, donate. There is something everybody can do. Volunteer, spread the word, spread this interview. Border911.com. Mark, I thank you for joining me today. It is really, when I say it's an honor, I truly, truly mean it. I've been trying to get you, and I was just so happy today you agreed. The holidays are here. I know you're busy. Everybody's busy. But sharing your voice and your expertise, it is so education, intervention, protecting, right? We're not going to stop it. Let's be realistic, but we are going to prevent. You pointed all of that out. And I want to thank you just for your incredible dedication to our country. I can almost cry, Mark. I really mean, I'm tough. I'm here in New York City, but as I'm getting older, I can't believe what our country's turning into. We love our country. We have our Constitution, but I cannot believe what is going on. But I know with you at the helm and Border 911, we are going to raise awareness. We're going to educate more. Again, border911.com. Everyone is the website. Every little bit helps, because people say, I have $5. I'm like, okay, send it along. That's good enough. Right. Mark Morgan, I want to wish you happy holidays. God bless you. Thank you for your service to our country. Enjoy the holiday season. Please be safe out there. And I want to finish with, and I mean this truly, you are the true definition to me of a warrior. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And back at you, and Merry Christmas.